Werewolves. We're gonna watch werewolves. Do you need a...
What? Sure, yeah.
Woo!
Let me just real quick.
You just... Tannic.
It's pink.
Not
It's not
rosé.
really tannic.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will,
And I'm Kristin.
and this is So I'm Watching Teen Wolf, Season 4, Episode 7.
Weaponized.
This is a difficult episode for me because there are pros and cons. It is the patented Teen Wolf giveth and taketh away. And it also is a little bit of a microcosm for me, as I recall. I'm in the process of revisiting it with fresh eyes, but it's a microcosm for me with my issue with Season 4 of Teen Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that I love the character work. I love what they're doing with the characters we know, with the main characters, the secondary, the tertiary. I love the implications. I love the world building. But I find the plotting to be elementary
Sure.
and arbitrary.
Also, sure.
As we were watching it, I can remember this was the episode where Rachel called it quits, which is kind of funny to me because for me, this episode, I could never quit after this episode. I would be like, I'm sorry, wait a minute, what? Like I would need.
I
to
have
keep
more
going.
questions than ever. The only thing I'll say is that I do kind of get it because it is sort of patently absurd watching CDC agents come into Beacon Hills High School.
Sick.
I don't know. I guess my issue is because of the nature of the show and the mystery aspect of the show. Up until this point, certainly seasons 1 and 2, there's a mystery. Season 3A, there's a mystery. 3B's, there's not really a mystery. And then 4, we're back to a mystery.
Yeah.
So because of that mystery, and because that's that plot device, I don't understand the benefactor.
Oh,
and
sure.
so it's like, and again, it's by design, but it's like, I can't get on board with the plot until I understand it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then for me, the problem is that even once you know who the benefactor is,
it somehow makes it worse.
I still don't understand. Yeah.
And so it's this weird departure from the parts of the episode and the show that I am enjoying, which is watching these characters learn, interact, and grow. We get fantastic material in this episode from Natalie and Melissa.
And Malia.
Well, sure, Malia. We'll get to that in a second. It's the outbreak episode.
Mm-hmm.
So one of these assassins.
He's called the Chemist. He's played by James Urbaniak. Oh yeah, this guy.
I feel like I remember not liking this episode, but I don't remember why.
I think it's absurd.
Is it like a detour?
Sort of, but they also, the CDC locks down
Right.
You will be connected through a dark net portal to an untraceable bank.
He has engineered a disease. It's like a rabies-esque.
It's basically canine distemper.
Where it'll make humans sick, but they'll be fine. But the werewolves, it is fatal. And so he's trying to kill the people on the dead pool. And all of this is happening while much of the students are taking their SATs. I love the potential of Natalie as a character.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, because they think he relapsed. That's actually... There's so much good material in this show!
Hey. Oh, Bobby. 15 years sober and you fall off the wagon at school? I'll bring you some coffee during one of the breaks. 15 years, Bobby.
Okay.
Yeah,
Natalie. You're...
Even if he did fall off the wagon, can we, cancel the judgment a little?
I can't find him.
And this is the most that... Because we've met her. I mean, we meet her in season 1. It's Susan Walter, who's fantastic. And that, I guess, is the problem. Or not the problem, the explanation, maybe, it's because Susan Walter is an established and good actress, so that I know production is writing material for her because she's Lyndon Ashby's wife. But then we only ever get half a character.
She's in 24 episodes of Teen Wolf, and during the same amount of time, she was in 34 episodes of The Vampire Diaries. So it's like, she was doing two things in the first place, probably more than that. But regardless, she was doing at least two things at the same time. And I just think it's like...
But it's like, by the show giving her this material, it sets a precedent that she's a more important character than she ever ends up being. And
same on The Vampire Diaries.
And again, it's one of these things where it's like, a lot of this I think we pick up on subconsciously, and it's where the show kind of writes itself into a corner or shoots itself on the foot, is that it's writing us, it's making us promises that it doesn't know how to, or even if it can pay off.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of implications that get set around this time that just sort of fizzle.
Because of the implication.
Now, you've said that word implication a couple of times. What implication?
It's actually something that Trevor and I are having a really hard time with in the end of season 3 of Angel, and it's going to continue into season 4. And we've had an issue with like a couple of characters from previously than that too, but it's just sort of like, if I, a layman, can look at all of the pieces that you have to work with, and I can make a more beautiful puzzle than you did, and it's your job to make the puzzle as beautiful as possible, that's what frustrates me.
The difference is we're largely doing it in hindsight, where it's like they're trying to make things up on the fly with no full understanding of what's going to resonate, where it's going to go.
Yeah.
They're not getting support from the production.
No, I get all that for sure, but that's also why it's like, I don't even really care if season 5 of Stranger Things is bad, because I know the Duffers had a Bible. And so it's like, even if I don't like it, I'm going to know that they did what they wanted to do. And that they've had that idea for over 10 years.
Uh-huh. We sound harsh. And again, this is a strange episode to declare the shark jumped.
I mean, I don't think the shark jumped.
Well, I say that because, like I said, it's where Rachel tapped out. But it's like...
Although, I mean, the CDC is a shark jumpy moment. Especially because, like, in addition to just, like, having the CDC, I feel like they're following zero protocols.
Well, it invokes a lot of things that I don't think it fully, and again, I'm trying to, because I don't really remember a lot of where the story goes, but the best word I have right now is precedent. It sets a lot of precedents that I don't think the show is capable of following through on. I really love so much of this, like, because this is the most that we've gotten Satomi. She's a actual player. She is the leader of this other neighboring wolf pack that was taken out by the disease.
Yeah. Most of them, at least.
And again, it didn't take her out because of the mushroom tea she was drinking. And this is where, especially, the word arbitrary is going to start coming in, because it's like, they only figured that out because Derek happened to reminisce.
Sorry. I just noticed how much you remind me of Talia. I used to visit her a lot, you know.
You always brought that tea that smelled terrible.
Your mother loved it.
What kind of tea?
Reishi. Wild purple reishi. It's
mushrooms.
Very rare.
It's also a very powerful remedy for sickness.
It's such a stretch. It's such a leap in logic that the show has done a lot.
No, for sure, but it's like the same thing can be said where it's like because again, this is something that Trevor and I have said about Angel a lot, where it's like, this is maybe not the show that needs to be like using only 42 minutes to tackle certain things. You know, because it's like,
this should have been a 2 or 3 episode story.
Sure, or something, but it's like, I mean, I don't want to get too graphic and we can bleep whatever, but there's like a season 1 of Angel episode that is metaphorically about female genital mutilation. And I'm like, these are not the men to tell that story. Like, this is not correct. And so I'm just sort of like, by using only 42 minutes of like real estate And we're also splitting it a little bit with like the Lydia and Meredith thing going forward. I'm just like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to like cram something this serious, this over the top, and kind of silly into only 42 minutes when we either could have drug it out more, or like instead of this benefactor whole thing, we could have had like an epidemic kind of season where it's like everyone's getting sick for a little while and then some people start to recover, but the wolves stay sick and we don't know why. And it's like, but it's because...
So we're coming to there's a lot of good ideas. They're not all necessarily being used appropriately, because the result is that, yes, this tea can inoculate you against the disease.
But also it apparently doesn't have to be tea. It can just be like mushroom
dust.
Yeah. I guess I'll allow it. It's a little weird that you can just like huff it. Yeah.
Well, but it's also in the Hale vault that we didn't find out about until like 3 episodes before. And also the vault has 2 entrances, and also the second entrance is just a door in the school basement.
Well, I mean, it still has like the thingy.
Yeah, but it like things are just falling into place in a way that feels disingenuous.
No, for sure. And even because like Malia is sort of an idiot.
Why would she care?
Well, because they were lying to her.
Sure,
and also Peter's a villain.
But that kind of means nothing to her.
Well, okay, that's not even the point I was trying to make about like finding out who her father was. The thing for me is that like Malia's kind of an idiot. And in addition to that, she should not be taking the SATs when I'm certain she's not passing any of her high school classes.
Where's Lydia?
She took it her freshman year.
Does that mean I could have taken it some other time?
Malia, you studied harder for this than any of us.
Doesn't mean I'm gonna do good.
Well,
what?
just do well, not good.
Oh, God.
Okay, you're doing this.
No judgment.
I know you're like, but we're not even
close to that. We're not close. And so, like, the thing for me is, like, a decent amount of the plot hinges on Malia being too stupid to ask one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Where Scott is like, Malia, why don't you try to open the door? And she's like, why?
Look at the cracks in the wall. It's like the entrance outside. It only opens with claws. Anyone's claws, right? Malia, can you try?
Why me?
I don't have control.
Okay, I'll do it. But first, tell me what you've been hiding from me. I know you think you're trying to protect me, but I can handle it.
But that's the stuff that was working for me, and I guess it's Shelley.
Sure, it's definitely Shelley, but I also think it works to differing effects, because in my mind, I don't even remember what he says to her. He's just like, I have no control. Like, he's claiming he can't get his claws out in order to do it, and she's like, oh, okay. And I'm just like, you have to be a Hale to open the thing. And it's like, it's suggesting that she's stupid enough not to realize.
But this episode ends with an implication that she is angry, like that she feels betrayed. And I don't, based on what we know about her and what I would imagine a character in her position, I feel like she wouldn't have, like, if anything, I feel like she would be confused or frustrated.
Does she know Peter yet?
Like in
Peter is her father.
Yeah, but it's like she's met like in the concept of him. But again, I'm sort of like, if anything, I almost feel like they would think they would need to hide it from her, and then she'd be like, "So what?" In
that case, I think you're probably right. But then the problem is that they lied to her about it. They've known for days now, and they lied to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like they like actively didn't tell her that they had information.
I just have a hard time,
and she knew too, because
believing or understanding that reaction from her based on what I know about her.
Well, like, then I think it just is the lying.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the other thing too, is she specifically asked Kira.
Kira, do you ever get the feeling that Scott and Stiles aren't telling you everything?
What do you mean?
Like they hide stuff.
They're trying to like be girl talk.
I think if they did, they'd probably have a pretty good reason.
So she's known for days now that they are keeping something from her. And, like, Styles is her boyfriend and Scott is her alpha. And, like, that's gross.
Well, I get that, but I guess I'm almost, like, based on her animal instincts, I almost see her being like, you were right to keep that from me. That would cloud my judgment. Like, you know what I mean? It just...
In that case, I think that's poor writing. Because they like, Malia's mad because the script says so.
If we're meant to believe that that she's come further than she has, and this is like she's acclimated more back to being human, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's just a handful of things that are a little bit too much. I feel like I'm coming down, or I feel like I'm sounding harder than I mean to be, because I actually think when you're just watching the episode, I think it's a fine episode of television, but it is sort of...
It's a very middle of the season episode.
Things aren't coalescing is the issue that I have.
Yep, because that's the thing. It's like, what do we have? 8, 9, 10? 3 more episodes? No, is it 12?
No, there's 12.
Okay. So 5 more episodes, but it's like, that doesn't feel like enough time to wrap up the whole benefactor storyline. Yeah, especially in hindsight, knowing that we know how it ends.
I think it does, but I don't know. The risk versus the reward is off for me. I mean, because this is the second time in 10 episodes that Styles has had a gun held to his head.
I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to kill you.
Think you can scare me?
No, I think I can kill you. I just let the cat out and make it more exciting.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And again, I actually like the parents, and I like this notion that we have our heroes and we have our parents who are sort of accessories to them, and they're helping them, and then we have the outside force, and so it's like there's layers between each one where they can... that I find...
It's satisfying.
Yeah, I find that intriguing, and I find the way that these groups are working with each other and against each other, I find it interesting, and it really... It creates a world, and you can't say this isn't a show, and at this point, this isn't a show that isn't using the tools that it has.
Of course, yeah.
There's just something about the way that this is resolved.
Yeah.
Like,
it just doesn't
the
all
wolves
pull
are
together.
going blind, but Scott has alpha eyes, and alpha eyes can see, and then he drops the thing, and it's like, oh no, but just kidding, it's dust, and they can hit, and
you
it just...
can huff it, yeah.
There's just one too many... It asks us to take on faith, or to suspend disbelief one too many times.
Yeah.
Lydia, does nothing. She's in...
I mean, you're right, but...
Well, I was like, oh yeah, in almost every season, there's an episode that Lydia sits out. And
she's just back at the fucking lake house.
She figures out that Meredith had been in that room. She's trying to make peace with, or understand, or like communicate with Meredith.
Yeah. And
she finds a picture of Meredith in that room. And I really, really like the interactions between so many of the characters. Like, we started off talking about Natalie. I like all of Natalie's material in this episode. I just wish I felt like something was accomplished, or something like it was going somewhere. I love Sheriff's... Lyndon Ashby is one of, if not the show's strongest secret weapon.
Yeah.
And the way that he talks to Lydia, and the way that he's sort of like, okay, look, I get that I don't get this, so help me help you. Like, help me meet you in the middle.
Yeah. Like, I want to help. I want to help you help. I need you to tell me just enough so that I can help you help.
And even Matthew Del Negro, like, he's doing a great job, and he's playing it like he is aware that there's something fishy going on, but he's not fighting it anymore.
Well, he's working at it like a federal, like, official, where he's like, I need to know as much as I need to know, and I don't need to know more than that. And so he like saves Styles, which again is very cool. And I like that because it kind of crosses over with Styles' relationship with Melissa in a way where it's like, it's not as nice because Raphael is like sort of an absentee dirtbag, but it is nice that he's like very willing to kill a man to save Styles. Like, I appreciate that.
So, 1, 2.
I think this happens to him a lot. Ah! Christ.
And yeah, and like I said, I mean, there's a moment where we have, you know, Derek and Brayden are in this episode. They don't really do anything. It's fine. I can't talk about Derek until we get later into the season.
He seems to be on a show of his own at the moment.
Yeah, and without really spoiling much, it's all in service of getting him to a place that ultimately doesn't matter.
I hope you're hungry.
For nothing.
And I mean, like, there's a part of me where I'm like, Satomi is an interesting character that I would not expect to have in a teen supernatural show like this.
Yeah.
Who's that? Oh.
Another assassin, I'm sure.
I may have learned to control my anger.
And I love that she's like, whoa, and like, cool. But again, it like, I enjoy watching her scene, but it ultimately sort of ends up being worthless.
She's in one more episode. Maybe two.
Ever? She's in more episodes.
She's not.
I'm calling you a liar.
I looked it up.
I'm calling you a liar.
I looked it up before we started talking about this. Where'd it go? She has 3 episodes of Teen Wolf. She is in the 1 episode in season 3, and she is in this episode and the finale of season 4.
That's impossible.
I mean, I know that we get Brett, so, but
Brett,
the one that Cody sent in whatever.
Oh,
Mason thought he was cute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he's part of her pack. Yeah. Okay.
I think it sounds harder than I meant for it to be.
I think the problem for me is that, like, and it's something that I have a hard time with because most shows have like a peak and it's not always at the end. I just think I'm not really sure what happened and what went wrong and if it really was all hinging on Crystal Reed, but like season 3 is the hard peak of this show. And so I am judging this compared to that and how tight the plotting was, how tight the writing was for both halves, how good it was, how everything paid off, everything worked, story-wise, acting-wise, everything. And so now it's like to come across an episode like this, it just feels kind of sloppy and lazy. And it's like, I feel like not necessarily, and I'm not trying
because I would go the opposite, because I don't think parts of the episode are sloppy and lazy, but it feels meaningless. Like it feels like a diversion.
Yeah,
it feels like, okay, I mean that was cool, but what does it mean?
So then it falls into like my Zack Snyder conundrum, where it was like, I think whoever wrote this episode was like, I want to see the CDC in Beacon Hills High, and that was as far as it went. They wanted that visual, and then you're building around a visual that's not necessary and doesn't fully make sense. So it's weird. That's it for me. Like,
so, yeah. I mean, we're obviously going to keep going. Yeah. And
no, I quit now too. You can never again.
I'm trying to not just keep repeating myself. Yeah. I was like, we sounded harder, but I think the episode just presented us with the opportunity to have that conversation. Yeah. There is still good stuff, there is medium stuff, we're going to keep going, all that. But
no, I'm here till the bitter end. I'll do every episode.
That's where we're at. So
you're going to wish I quit.
We'll be back to watch the next episode.
Bye.